Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Cross Touring Cup. We are here at the famous old Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, better known as Imola, in the wonderful province of San Marino. Well, it's technically not actually in San Marino, but it, of course, held the San Marino Grand Prix for many, many years before, of course, holding the more modern Emiliana Romagna Grand Prix in Formula 1 of recent years. And far from Formula 1 here this evening, of course, we're racing GT3 and GT4 cars. The second race for those GT4 cars here in the Cross Touring Cup after they replaced TCR cars from last year. I'm Tom Dillon on commentary this evening. Alongside me is Mike Braun, and of course we have Ian Fisher on production. And Mike, it looks like a pretty hot track at the moment, and we're seeing some pretty fast times in qualifying. What are your expectations for the race?
Hey Tom, thank you for having me today. The track looks awesome. This is my first time with the Cross Touring Cup series, and I'm really looking forward to see what these guys can do with these GT3 and GT4 cars. Lap times look amazingly close, anywhere from second to seventh, within half a second of each other. So it should be some great racing today.
As we look at Thurston come into the pits, and that makes sense as we were watching him in the build-up to this stream, actually during the countdown screens and things. Our cameras were following him, and he seemed to be sliding around quite a bit, obviously having some kind of issue with either tyre warm-up or something along those lines. The tyre model in iRacing always a particularly tricky one. We've got about 3 minutes left in qualifying as Melding comes into the pits in the BMW GT3 car as well, and it's currently Peccarini, Eduardo Peccarini, on pole position. He won the first race in quite emphatic style a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it might have been exactly last week. I'm not too sure, but well, he seems to be one of the drivers that is gunning for this championship. As we actually look at Frank Aper, who is going to cross the line. This isn't going to be a particularly impressive lap of 44.8. He is in fact going to jump up to, it's a 43.9, I apologise, and he's going to jump up to 7th in the order. So a really, really close qualifying session.
No, definitely. They are looking great going around here right now, as we're looking at the 85 car of, sorry, I'm losing my scoring here, Jake Hamm. Yep, Jake Hamm coming around. I love that livery. That looks amazing on that Ferrari coming around. And Hamm doing a 144.2 last time by, or that's his best lap so far. Last time by it was a 151. So he looks great around there in that Ferrari.
And well, it looks like we've got a pretty big gap actually in GT3 with, of course, Eduardo being in the 41s. Here's the less contested GT4 class. In fact, the even more contested GT4 class, I should say. We're currently having a look at Grant Turner in 5th position, the only car actually on the circuit in the GT4 category, and actually the only car that I imagine is going to be able to set him on the lap in the GT4 class. We ride on board with the Porsche heading through the, I think this is the Variante Alta, the chicane, and again, my Imola corner names is the one thing that I just haven't got a clue about in racing. And well, he's currently not on the most incredible of laps, yellow in all of the mini sectors that you can see this at the bottom of your screen. And it looks like actually he's almost coasting it round the final couple of corners here at Imola. Of course, there used to be a chicane right about now. That's since been removed, and I would suspect he might be coming into the pits. No, he's going to go again. So he's warming up his tyres and getting ready to go for a lap. A 1 minute 53 is not going to be setting a pole position lap time here at 56 actually in the end. 151.9 is the gap. And look at that gap between first and second in this race. 4,000th of a second.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, especially for these GT4 cars off top two like that. And then your third place car of Michael Doling is not too far back, a full 1/10 of a second back behind him. So that top three is a real tight battle, and should lead us a great start and a great race, these guys.
And well, oh dear, we see Jake Hamm getting his all wrong down at the chicane, not the chicane, the hairpin. even. And actually, with 15 seconds to go in qualifying, it looks like everyone has gone into the pits. And I believe that is virtually the end of the qualifying session. I can't see anyone on track. Anyway, so back to a bit more information about this circuit. And, well, you can see that it is 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That is, I believe, the ambient temperature. The track temperature is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, as a European, I haven't got a clue what that means, but I assume that's quite hot. And,
Yeah.
well, the partly cloudy conditions with light winds, 2 miles per hour, absolutely negligible in these cars. And to be honest with you, Mike, I've driven a lot of sims in my time. I've probably got over 1,000 hours sim racing as a whole, and I've never felt the wind. But anyway, I'll give you the honours of going through the qualifying results.
Well, we got Eduardo taking that lead spot with a 141.8. Had a half-second advantage on Josh Clogg in that second spot. Bobby Ross is going to be starting in the third spot. James Thurston starting in fourth. Then you got Kerry Cantera running in the fifth spot. Wesley Jeanette qualifying in sixth. Frank Appa qualifying in seventh. 2 seconds behind your leader, you got Brandy Melling in the eighth spot. Matthew Palance running in the ninth. Eric Winter starting in 10th. Jake Hamm in 11th, and Chad Seep in the 12th spot. Rounding out the top cars in the GT class, Robbie Shin in the 13th, and Jaden Darling in 14th.
And as for the GT4 class, it is Robert Schwenkler on pole position. Then it's Mick O'Lechik in second position. And I do apologise, I'm having to read a pronunciation sheet for that one. And Michael Dolling is in third position. James Kearser is in fourth position with Grant Turner starting fifth. Glenn McTavish is in sixth position with Rob Neville in seventh. Kevin Owen starts in eighth. And that's it, isn't it? There's only 8 cars in the GT4 class. We are rolling, and I have to say I'm going to apologise to Paul Mikulicic already, as I think I nailed it on that occasion, but that is a rather difficult name to pronounce. I hope he'll forgive me, but we are rolling here, and actually we're rolling rather quickly, aren't we? This is going to be the green flag. You can see it there, about to fly. You're ready for the second round here of the Cross Touring Cup from Imola. The green flag is going to fly, I think. He's taking his time with it, that's for certain. And eventually we get the calls of green flag for the Cross Touring Cup, and it's a good start from the BMW, the bright yellow BMW. They roar down into turn one as a crash immediately, and it's in the back, and there's 2 cars off. It's one of the BMWs, and I think it's one of the Mercedes as well. It's Appa and Mailing, and there's more drama at the back, and Terry is involved in the Mercedes, and that was a very, very ugly looking race start, as immediately Mailing, I think, had to tow back to the pits. There's more drama with the BMW trying to challenge down into the third corner. Shin has been caught up in incidents as well in the Ferrari, and well, that was just about as bad a race start as we could have expected in the GT3 class, to the point that we haven't even seen the GT4s yet to make sure that they're through nice and safely. But I can tell you that they have made a much better deal of it than their GT3 older cousins. Robert Schwenkler does lead the way, and Paul is in second position in the number 1 car. And we have got a replay. And Mike, you can take us through this. I'm not too sure what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I looked up and, looks like we got pinched coming into that section right there. That outside car, that 21 of Frank Appa gets tangled up on that outside spot and just couldn't get out of there. So, yeah, those rough starts sometimes when you get 3 pinched like that. One guy gets a little too aggressive, and somebody's got to lose in that race.
Absolutely, and we saw a clear. Well, in fact, I don't think anyone was a winner there. I think it was just all losers. But Peccarini continues his fairly dominant form, as he did win the previous race here, and he's continuing on in incredible fashion. He has got a little bit of pressure from the Mercedes, just a little bit behind him. It's a 45-minute race, so it's going to be quite a while before we see a proper battle develop. At 0.6 of a second, Peccarini is right in this race. I think there's been a bit of an issue for Plaisance behind, same with Hamm and Jeanette. They all showing red next to their name, which means something has got all wrong for those guys. But we continue on looking at Peccarini as he heads through the hairpin now for the second time in this race. And well, Josh Clogg still trying to attack him, but at the moment in vain. I think he's just going to wait this one out, perhaps.
Yeah, being in a 45-minute race, you really got to keep the tires under you, and you don't want to get them worn out too early. And as we saw in his qualifying time, he does have the pace to run away from these guys. So I'm sure he's just saving his time and saving them tires up. Josh Clogg in that Merc right behind him, just about a full second back behind him, is able to pace with him right now. And then you got Bobby Ross running in the third spot, also in a Merc. Those Mercs just sound amazing pouring down those straightaways in these cars. Then you got James Thurston in the fourth spot in the Ferrari. Starting to lose a little bit of contact from them top three cars, though.
Yep, and I'm just looking through the notes that I've got ahead of this race, and well, we're looking through it. We're trying to see where the pit stops and things are going to happen. I think, well, there is going to be one mandatory pit stop, but we're expecting the two-stop strategy here, and that's going to be, again, one of the crucial things. It was in the previous race as well. We saw the pit stops really having quite a big effect on the outcome of the race, and I think I would expect that to continue here as well. But as we watch on and we see James Thurston sitting quite pretty down in fourth position, trying to catch up to third, just ahead of him in the podium of Bobby Ross. We've got quite a mixed field here in terms of cars: BMWs, Ferraris, Porsches, Mercedes, and it seems to be that actually the Ferrari is the car of choice in the GT3 class.
Yeah, there are, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 of them out there in the class. They are probably one of the more well-balanced cars, and probably the easier to get around. But for the fast guys, those BMWs definitely are the quick cars. As we get in the in-car with Bobby Ross trying to reel these guys in, he's a full second and a half back behind these guys. Just trying to keep pace, trying to keep those tires underneath them. With that track temp of 104 earlier, it's going to wear them tires out. But Bobby Ross last time by with a 142.7, about a half second off your leader's pace. Let's see how long it's going to pay out, because we only have 5 minutes in. You still got a whole 40 minutes to go. And like you were saying, Tom, we still got one stop at least, if not 2 pit stops for these guys.
Yep, of course, the one mandatory pit stop, and well, I can tell you that the sort of heat wave has particularly hit Britain. I'm not too sure for the rest of Europe, but I've been absolutely sweltering this afternoon, and I normally try and get a nap before these broadcasts. They're quite late at night for me, so I try and get a nap before them, and I can tell you that it was absolutely impossible to do so because of how hot it is, and with the real weather plugin that we've got on this server, that track temperature is going to be reflective of the searing heats of the Italian summer, and I think that's what the drivers are really going to have to play with here. Yeah,
definitely. As you see, Eric Wittner is the first Porsche on the track right now in the 5th spot. He looks to be about 3 seconds behind our leaders. Check that, 8 seconds behind our leaders. 3 seconds behind James Thurston in the 4th spot. But the Porsches are typically a little hairy, for me at least, to drive, especially on hot tracks like this. And for Eric to be able to whip this thing around here and still be up in the top 5, that's a pretty good effort so far.
And yes, I'm looking through the order as well for the GT4 standings at the moment. We've currently, in fact, looking at the overall standings, we've currently got a little bit of an interesting development happening, as all those GT3 drivers that were caught up in that incident on the first lap are now trying to sift their way through the bulk of the GT3 field. That is Braden Melling, who actually I think has maybe gone into the pits. I'm not too sure. He's trying to sift his way through anyway, same as Frank Apper, Kerry Cantor, Glenn McTavish, and Wesley Jeanette. In fact, looking at it, it's all the Canadians and Wesley Jeanette who have found themselves in an issue. Here is Wesley, the American, the number 74, on the inboard shot for the BMW. And well, it is quite a massive car, this one, isn't it? And looks like the Bentley. Heading down into the final corner, you can see the GT3 class cars just ahead of him. And that's really GT4 class cars just ahead of him, I should say. And well, the pace difference between the two classes isn't as huge as you would think. You know, it's about 10 seconds, but really on a track like Imola, that's not a huge margin. That's sort of, you know, especially when we're seeing 3 seconds between classes, people in the same class. 10 seconds isn't like an LMP2 and a GT3. You know, you're not going to... Yes, and, well, you know, it's not a huge advantage, is it? So it's not so easy to get through these guys. But just ahead is Schwenkler, the GT4 leader. And Jeanette is trying to get his way through, and that's got to be his first focus of the day. Try and get past Robert Schwenkler, and then hopefully chase down Robbie Shin for a top 10 finish. So 6 seconds up the road is Shin. It's going to be mightily difficult for him to chase that down, but plenty of time with just over 35 minutes to go. Now here is the difference in pace between the GT3 and the GT4, and you can see actually Jeanette had to back out of that one, heading into the one of the most difficult corners on this circuit, and actually goes very, very wide to try and get around Schwenkler and down into Variante Alta. Not the most easy corner to make a move done, but when you've got someone in a separate class, you can get it done fairly nice and effectively. Schwenkler now still leads the way, and he leads the way by quite a significant margin, actually 5.8 seconds or so. And you can see Jeanette now free and able to focus on getting back up to that GT3 field. Neville has had an incident further down the field. I think he got overtaken twice. I don't know whether it's an incident or just a double overtake. But, well, it seems to be, again, still all to play for here.
Yeah, definitely. Schwenkler out in front. He's got what, that 6 second lead on Dillon in that Porsche, and then Glenn McTavish in the third spot in the Aston Martin, running in third in the GT4 class. But up front, you still have your leader of Eduardo Peccarini, stretching his lead out. Peccarini stretching his lead out little by little now. But the top order, the top 5 still has not changed. Eduardo, Josh, Bobby, James, and Eric still your top 5. The main focus right now are those GT3s trying to work their way back up after their early accident, trying to get through that field and get past those GT4 cars. But Robert Schwenkler in the McLaren doing a great job out in front. Here's Michael Dillon in the Porsche. Great livery on that 78 car. I like the coloring on that. Looks good, but he does have Frank Appa coming by. Frank was in that early accident. Looks like he did take some repair on his car after that first accident, and he's trying to get by. But Frank also has Braden Melling right behind him as they both go by Michael down the straightaway and into that hairpin.
Oh, it's such a difficult place to try and force a move, and even though it's effective, you can get it right on the traffic. You definitely don't be going side by side with the same class here, but this could be a little battle actually forming between these two at the rear of the GT3 field, Appa and Melling. It might only be for what is essentially last position in class, the number 13 and the number 21. It's BMW versus Mercedes, and actually heading down the straight, Melling is going to give this one a go. Forget working together to try and get this one done. They're going to just battle it out for 13th position in class, the Mercedes is already not able to go defensive as the top speed, well, he's trusting the top speed of the BMW is melling down into the Tamburello. He's not going to be able to make the move on that particular occasion. Just didn't quite get the straight line speed that he would have expected, but I think that was a squirm from the 21, and now Frank Apple is going to come under a great deal of pressure from Melling down into turn 3. Well, I think actually turn 4, isn't it? And then the hairpin still behind, and they've still got to get through Robert Schwenkler. They're not actually in overall positions here, and well, that's going to be a difficult thing for them to do, to get past Robert Schwenkler, particularly when they're battling each other, and that BMW is looking rather angry indeed. The vibrantly oranged colour BMW, and you can see actually now really caught up to Schwenkler immediately into Aqua Minerale, and Schwenkler is really just trying to stay out of the way here. He doesn't want to have his race that is so dominant so far ruined by two GT3 cars tripping over each other and himself. As we can see, look at the view from Schwenkler. He has got the best view of this with his 6.8 second buffer. He can enjoy the GT3s battling just ahead of him, and battling they are at this stage. As you can see, actually there's going to be a move, I think, down into the final corner, perhaps from Melling. He thinks against it in the end. I think he was just a little bit too far back with the 21, makes a mistake, and Melling is going to sail on through down into the final corner turn. I think it's turn 17, I want to say, here at Imola, and well, he's got through, and now he can focus on getting ahead, and Frank Apper now might be slightly tempted to just work with Melling ahead of him and not really do anything silly here, and trip them both over each other and cost them time when trying to fight back to Shin ahead of them, which has got to be their goal now, get onto the back of the pack. And Shin is sort of in a line there, so if they do catch up to him, they've kind of caught up to the rest of the pack, Mike.
Yeah, it looks like Shin's about 9 seconds away, so they've got a lot of work to do to catch up to him. And like you said, Shin is not too far off the back of the field, so he's still tacking that tail end of the draft in his Ferrari right now. The number 200 Ferrari coming around, running in that 12th spot. He is right behind Wesley Jeanette and Kerry Cantera. Kerry was wrapped up in that early incident as well, dropping down 5 spots from the early start. So does Wesley, 5 spots as well. So they are still trying to work their way back up through the field.
And we see early pit stops from Josh Clogg and James Thurston as immediately at pit exit. It's a very quick stop, but 15 minutes in, we would expect them to be taking their mandatory pit stop a little bit later than that, particularly if they're going to go for the 1 stop. We do expect almost the 2 stop here in this race, and that seems to be what Clogg and Thurston have sort of committed themselves to. Though look at how longer Thurston seems to be in the pits compared to Clogg, and Clogg already back out and sailing on into the sunset. Thurston is going to drop all the way down to 12th and actually get involved in this battle here for 9th. This is Cantera and Jeanette. Jeanette has actually done a really good job to climb his way back up to this little group of cars. The number 74, fueled by Motorsports machine, and really trying to make some inroads on the Mercedes just ahead of him. And it's a Mercedes BMW battle. We seem to be seeing that all the way through the field today. They clearly have it out for each other. But Kerry Cantera really just trying to hold on to what he can here. 9th position in the number 333. And at the moment, he's got a little bit of a buffer to work with.
Now we're back with the 8 car of James Keir, the 88 car of James Keir, running in the 8th spot in the GT4 class. Picking up the rear of the field right now, about 1.5 seconds behind the 7th place car of Kevin Irwin, right behind him. Nice livery on that Kevin Irwin's car. It says cautions on the back of it there. Just playing a little game with the livery, having some fun. These guys sure look like they're having a lot of good time out there. Not sure what exactly it says on the back there, but James doesn't want to look at the back of it anymore. I'm sure he's trying to reel him in. James does have a faster lap time than Kevin, so it shouldn't be too hard for him to get by him as they're dragging down that front straightaway right now, passing the pit lane. James Keir looking for a spot to pass. They're coming down. He's getting a good draft of him down that straightaway. Looking for to get him on the inside. Maybe get by that lap car here. And things better.
Oh, no,
McKelvin goes off the track. And that's going to give Kevin that spot. So James Keir going to
send, sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
Going to send Kevin Irwin all the way down the order. As you see, Kerry Quintero try and get through the GT4 traffic. We've actually got to the stage now where the GT3s are lapping the GT4s 17 minutes into the race. But that really, Kevin got that all wrong, didn't he? Down into turn 1.
I think we've all made that mistake when you start looking in the rearview mirror instead of in the front. And it looks like our leader in the pits now, Eduardo, in for his first pit stop. And it's just over 17 minutes down. So he's going to be a 2-stopper. Here comes your second place car as well of Bobby Ross. And it looks like our third place car goes by. So Matthew's going to keep on going, pushing his envelope just a little bit deeper. But Eduardo and Bobby are definitely playing that 2-stop game right now.
And I was just thinking, I hope that Plaisance can focus on his driving as much as he was focusing on that cat in that little picture there as we watch Josh Clog come on through. 4th position. Plaisance is actually into the pits, and for his pit stop, Peccarini's at pit exit, so is Bobby Ross, and that's going to allow Josh Clog to inherit 2nd position, and he already pit earlier, so this is actually a 2nd position you know, legitimately for Josh Clog, and Peccarini actually has lost a great deal as well. 1.7 seconds, that gap now, and Peccarini is perhaps going to find himself under a little bit of pressure, though, something I've learned from only commentating on now 1.5 races involving Eduardo Peccarini. He doesn't really do pressure, he kind of just accelerates away when he fancies it.
Yeah, like we saw in qualifying, he was, what, a full half second faster than the field. So he just sits there and plays with them and just bides his time. And when he's ready to go, he just pulls away. And what we said, you know, he was the TCR champion last season. This is his first time with the GT3s, and he's already winning the, you know, the first race out. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive for rejoining a, you know, changing complete car class and coming right out the first weekend and just laying it down.
And I can tell you that he has got by far the most iRating in the league by the margin of about 1,000. I think it's 1,200 that actually Eduardo has got over the field. But iRating isn't everything, and obviously you can have drivers that just don't play iRacing, and they might still be incredibly fast. But it's certainly a metric that you can use, and Eduardo really showing why he has 5,200 iRating, and it's quite impressive to see him drive already up to 2 seconds that gap, and Josh Clog is going to be driving absolutely flat out in his car at the moment, and all he can hope for is that traffic comes to his rescue a little bit and that he can get ahead of Peccarini and try and stay ahead. Bobby Ross is thinking about much of the same story you'd expect, trying to catch up to Clog a little bit, though that gap itself is up to about 5 seconds now. So Bobby Ross really hoping for a bit of a miracle in all. Oh no, that might be the miracle that he needs, and it's not Josh Clog. I'm not too sure who it is. I think it's Darling down in 13th position. We have got a replay coming up for you, and it wasn't the miracle that Bobby Ross needed. It was rather the opposite of a miracle for whoever was involved in the accident, and well, I can't see the replay myself, so I'm not too sure what happened, but maybe you can see it, Mike.
It looks like James Thurston went off the track in the in that white Ferrari, and not sure what happened. It looks like he just got offline just a little bit and chased the tail around. But you got Bob.
Oh, here's the one we were after. It was Jaden Darling, and it was a spin and a crunch into the wall as well, and that's quite significant damage on the front of that BMW. You can see that actually quite visually, so he will be having to pit for repairs. I imagine the handling will be quite damaged there. The damage is so harsh on iRacing with this relatively new damage model as well, and well, that will be harming him. That's for certain. Here's Michael Dillon in second position, 10 seconds almost to Schwenkler in first. Dillon really not holding a candle, but he is still in second, and that's quite mighty indeed. And I imagine just trying to get to the end and hope something happens in front. But really, that crash from Dillon it's just one of those things, isn't it? You'll beat yourself up about it afterwards, but I imagine it's just one of those things you got to get your head down and at least use the rest of this race as testing in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, every once in a while we do a little mistake, suck a tire off the grass, and you use it as a learning curve. You don't learn unless you try. So right now we've got Eric Winter in the 4th spot right now in that Porsche. Wittner in the Porsche, car number 10 running around. Wittner is about 11 seconds behind your 3rd place car of Bobby Ross, and Chad in the 5th spot, about 11 seconds back as well. So Wittner has a great gap between them. Just has it in cruise mode right now, but it's still early. It's still only 22 minutes down. So we're just barely past the halfway point. Still plenty of racing to come, and as you said, anything can happen. Wittner coming up on your 2nd place car of the GT3 class of Michael Dillon. Dillon shouldn't give up too much fight for him. He would probably just let him ride by, because Dillon has a good gap between 1st and 3rd right now. And as we said, he goes in hard, he just kind of slides over, lets him by, and might suck in behind him, get a little draft to pick up another 10th or 2 here. But you got your 4th place car still of Eric Wittner in that Porsche out there.
We look at Chad C in 5th position. Again, a rather lonely road for the Mercedes this far down the order. I say this far down the order. 5th is still a mighty finish indeed. It's, really, after that first lap incident, everyone's kind of, checked out with each other, and they, there's nothing they can really do but do laps at this stage and hope that they eventually catch up to someone ahead of them. But, well, at the moment, Chad Seep is in 5th position and going along quite nicely, a 12-second gap. Here is Matthew Plaisance in the number 9 Ferrari. Much of the same story. He's got 11 seconds to the car ahead, and the gaps at this stage quite significant with 20 minutes to go in this contest. And, well, it's still a pretty entertaining contest because, of course, the pit stops are going to be a rather large factor here, and I don't think we can underestimate that much. And particularly in the GT4 class, I'm looking out for that due to the slightly shorter gaps, particularly between 1st and 2nd. Dillon and Schwenkler looks like a battle that perhaps could boil up if they do pull a blinder on each other in the pit stop phases. Grant Turner, however, seems to be relatively out of it with the 22-second gap to the car ahead. That's almost a free pit stop if this were Formula 1. It's not Formula 1, of course, so it's a bit of a moot point to make. But 22 seconds is a big gap.
Definitely. Looks like our closest battle is all the way back in the 6th and 7th spot in GT4. You had Paul Mikulajczyk in the 6th spot and Rob Neville in 7th. Rob was within a half a second earlier. He must have made a small bobble on it, but that is our closest battle right now for that 6th and 7th spot in GT4. Everybody else is pretty spread out right now. But Paul in the 01 McLaren able to pull away just a little bit from the 87 Porsche of Rob Neville. But like you said, we're just getting to the 25-minute mark. Still 20 minutes to go in this race. It's still anybody's race. As we saw earlier, somebody spinning off, sucking a tire off into the grass, or just overcooking a turn and just missing the turn completely. So anything could still happen in this race.
It's been a rather quiet race so far, and I'm sure we'll get to... Oh, no, Kevin almost did it again, and he did do it again, but thankfully the GT3 car was able to avoid him. It wasn't quite as dramatic as the first one from Kevin Irwin, and, well, he's having a difficult day, let's say. It's poor old Kevin. And, well, we can barely blame him as James Thurston in the number 96 we were riding on board with for a moment. As, well, we actually find a battle on the circuit. It's between the BMW and, in fact, it's not even a battle. That's the BMW being lapped by his fellow BMW. This is Melling and Peccarini, and that just shows how dominant Peccarini has been in pace in this race, in this season so far. He's jumped up from the TCR class, the now defunct TCR class. Of course, it has become GT4 for this season. And, well, he's jumped up and he's showing absolutely why he was deserving that jump. But oh dear, it was almost an incident into the hairpin between the two of them as Peccarini furiously flashes his lights, trying to get Melling out of the way. And really, Melling should have moved over a little bit earlier there, in my view anyway. As, well, you can sort of understand Peccarini's frustration there.
Yeah, definitely. That's you know, lap markers definitely need to keep an eye out for him. And as fast as Edward is, he's closing on him real fast. But I gave Josh Clogg a chance to close in a little bit. Let's see if we have a crash here. Let's see who this is. Robbie Shin coming in a little hot, and he kicks the tail end around coming into that chicane. Oh, and he bumps into who is that? Jordan Dolan,
I think. The number 10.
Oh, that was Wittner. That's right. That was your fourth place car of Eric Wittner getting into him. Let's see the replay here again. Just chases it around and blams right into his back corner. Now, how much damage is on that car of Wittner? He still has 9 seconds back to Chad Seep in the 5th spot. But when you, as you were talking about the damage earlier, once you get a little bit of damage on the front end, that aero damage does get you to slow down. There's Josh Clogg in for a stop. That is your 3rd place car. If I remember correctly, this is his 2nd stop now with 28 minutes down. So Bob Ross taking over that 2nd spot now. Bobby is about 12 seconds behind Eduardo in the lead.
And here is a, sorry, Mike, here is a fascinating graphic. And I'll point it out before I forget or it disappears. This is the stint length, and you can see Clogg is doing almost exactly 8 laps on his stints. I say almost exactly 8 laps on his stints. 2nd position he was running, and it looks like this 3rd stint for Clogg is going to have to be a fairly long one. He's going to have to go 16 minutes almost on the dot. Peccarini was able to do 10 on the previous stint, and it seems to be a familiar theme throughout the field of everyone who hasn't had an issue has been doing 9 or 10 laps. So certainly taking an early stop, Josh Clogg. But I have to feel, and hope for Josh Clogg actually, that is a case of pit stop strategy rather than a necessity of having to pit that early.
Yeah, I mean, that early stop might have been just for a quick splash, just so it was the shortest pit stop that he could get, and then work on a little bit longer stint later on. That would be my thought process on it. But Josh Clogg with probably one of the best driver photos in this race right now, going around in the 199, still sitting in 3rd. But he's got 5-second gap back to Chad Seep in the other Mercedes in the 4th spot. But they are starting to pull away just a little bit. Here's Chad's car, number 73, in the 4th spot. He had a 145.8 last time by. So he's still running a decent pace, but it's 2 seconds behind your leader's pace. So as we were saying earlier, Eduardo Peccarini is just running away from these guys, and he's just toying with them. Running in the 5th spot, you got Matthew Plaisance in the number 9 car, in that red and black number 9 Ferrari. He is about 9 seconds behind Chad. And then keeping down the order in the 6th spot, you've got the 85 car of Jake Hamm. Jake's about 15 seconds behind Matthew. So he's just trying to wait for a mistake to see if somebody else makes a mistake up ahead of him. And then in the 7th spot, you've got Eric Wittner. After that early accident, he's coming in for a pit stop right now with 31 minutes down. Let's see if he can get some of that damage repaired possibly and get some of that speed back up. So taking over the 7th spot now is Kerry Cantera in the Mercedes. The 333 Merc coming down the straightaway. Those cars just sound brilliant going down straightaways. Kerry is about 3 seconds behind Jake trying to close that gap and get up into that 6th spot. You got Wittner still in the pits in the 8th spot. Frank Appa from his early accident on is sitting in the 9th spot, a little ways back. So it's like you said, pit stops are definitely playing strategy right now, and to see how they roll them out here at the end, Tom.
Glorious pit stops actually with Shilling Darling also coming into the pits. And well, as we see Wesley Jeanette for Fuel Motorsports, he's got a battle on his hands with Melling just behind in that number 13 BMW. It's the BMW Civil War that we've got going on here, and Melling is really trying to get into a top 10 position. He has been trying to virtually all race as well, and these two actually also a lap down on the leader. Only 13 minutes or so to go. There's a little bit of an issue actually for Jeanette onto the gravel. Seep is into the pits, which is just as expected. I think he did about 10 laps on the previous tyres as well. Here we go. Here's actually a run from Melling, and it looked a little bit more promising on the exit than it actually turned out to be, as sometimes the story of racing is you get a really good exit, but then your second stage of the throttle application isn't quite as good as you expected. But heading through Aqua Minerale, still right on each other's noses, and down the straight you expect to see quite a big challenge here from Melling in that number 13, the Canadian. And right now they are pretty close together, Wesley Jeanette and Braden Melling, and I'm looking at the last lap times actually, and they were virtually on par, 0.08 of a second separating the two of them. Which we, oh no, there's a crash, and it's Jeanette. He's not into the wall. It's a spin rather than a crash, and he's got a little bit lucky there, and it looks like he's having a bit of an issue getting it back going again. He's trying to just tentatively get the car back going, and the pressure has really bit him quite harshly there. Here is the replay. It's down into the final corner. He gets up onto the grass, a little bit of gravel as well, and you can't put the power down even with the traction control of the GT3 cars, and he spins into the grass, and that is unfortunately not how you hold on to 10th position. And Melling has had his work essentially done for him there, and your heart does have to go out to Jeanette there. However, if you can't handle pressure of someone being behind you, that's unfortunately what happens, and maybe that's a bit harsh. And I'm saying if you've got the pressure put onto you, sometimes it is hard to handle that.
Well, it looked like they were coming up on a lap car as well, so he may have been overthinking the next turn or his next move, and wasn't thinking about the now and just got sucked off the track. So as we got some more pit stops, here is Schwenkler coming in for a pit stop. Michael Dalling coming by right now. It's going to be coming by the pits and will be taking over the lead. So Michael Dalling will be taking over the lead this time by Robert Schwenkler, dropping back into that 2nd spot. Let's see how long his pit stop Schwenkler ends up taking. But 35 minutes down. We still got only 10 minutes to go. So Dalling is going to try to make a run away, but is he going to have to make another stop? We'll have to see.
And we do expect everyone to make a 2-stop here. It would be quite spectacular if that was going another 10 minutes on that tank. If he is, then Schwenkler's got his work cut out here with a 25-second gap to Dalling on track now. Here is McTavish in the Aston Martin in 4th position. I'm not sure if he's made his 2nd stop yet. He's racing for Glenn's Hot Wings, and if he is a Hot Wing vendor, that's probably the most exotic job I've seen someone name their esports team after. And,
well, I mean, if he sends some to the commentary booth, we might give him some extra time or something. Yes. Yeah. And well, I've seen law firms and things like that, but I've never seen Hot Wings before, so I do hope that's sincere. Anyway, we should probably focus on the graphic that's up on our screen, because it's going to give us the answer to all of our questions. And we can tell you that McTavish has not made his 2nd pit stop just yet, although actually it's not registering Schwenkler's 2nd pit stop yet, so I'm not too sure. I believe he is going to have to pit again. Looks
And,
like
I'm sure my live timing will tell me, actually.
Yep, so that's Glenn McTavish there, still running around in that 71. He is in the 3rd spot. He's got a good chunk of gap between Schwenkler and Turner, the 2nd and 4th place cars. So he's just pacing around, and we're closing that gap on the time, getting down to about 8 minutes. He's got a lap car coming up behind him, one of the faster GT3 cars. Not sure who that was. That is Jeanette. After the early spin-off, Wesley trying to make his way back up after that early mistake. Wesley's now 20 seconds behind Mailing. That was a huge mistake for him earlier, a couple laps ago. There is Mailing coming in the pits right now in the 10th spot. So Jeanette coming down, and Jeanette also coming in for a stop.
And McTavish as well, he's going to take his pit stop. I was about to say that he was anyway a little pit stop. I refer to my live timing. Is this a battle? No, it's a GT4 class. I'm not too sure if these two are battling or if they're lapping each other. But I can tell you that the GT3 got... Oh no, they almost contact, and he's done very, very well to avoid that. I can tell you that much. And it is a fellow GT4 car, actually. It's the race leader in GT4, and it's tripping over the number 87, that is Rob Neville, down in 6th position. And, well, Michael Dolling is ever so frustrated because it just appears to him that he's not getting out of the way, and he still needs to make a pit stop as well. He's trying to pull away from Schwenkler, and, well, he's not being let through by one of the GT4 cars. I'm almost certain there is a blue flags rule in this league. I will have to see the rule book, but surely his angst is justified there.
Absolutely, because Schwenkler is starting to reel him in now. So it's a 24-second gap, and here comes her leader, Michael Dolling, in for his final pit stop. And let's see how long a stop that was. It was a 24-second gap back to Schwenkler. And so let's see where Schwenkler's at right now. Here he comes out of the last section and coming into the pit lane straight. Schwenkler coming down the pit lane straight right now, and Dolling still in the pits.
He's actually going
just getting out.
Exit. Yep, and this could be quite huge for the complexion of this race. It looks like Schwenkler is going to get him, but by how much? It's going to be actually a quite emphatic margin, and of about 5 seconds. And 6 seconds now for Dolling to chase Schwenkler. He was on a better pace as he came through those final couple of laps of his stint. And the question is, in 5 minutes or so, 6 minutes actually, is he going to be able to gain a second a minute, which is about 2 seconds a lap? I don't think he will, but Schwenkler needn't make a mistake here, which would be his concern, I would imagine. But at the moment, one hand on that trophy.
Yeah, Schwenkler had a good size lead earlier on in the race, and that Dangerous Motorsports 235 McLaren. He's already opened it up to a 6.5 second advantage on Michael Dolling, and he is starting to pull away already. So that early lead that he had is no joke. If I remember, at one point it was up to 20 seconds possibly. So he is pulling away a little bit. Out in front, you still have Eduardo Peccarini in that 47 GT3 car. And he still has a 2-second advantage on Josh Clogg. So he hasn't lost, Josh has not lost any contact yet. So they are still battling it out. But it's less than 5 minutes to go. If it's go time now, if he's going to start making a pass, maybe the lap traffic they're coming up on, that is your second place car in the GT4 class of Michael Dolling that they're coming up on. I guess that Dolling will give them the right of way just to not hold them up. But it is anything's game right here. Josh Clogg still sitting in that second spot. Peccarini getting hung up just a little bit around that section. That's giving Clogg a chance to close that gap. It's less than 2 seconds right now. And that Mercedes just pulling down the straightaway, closing that gap little by little down the straight, gaining that little bit of draft down that front straightaway as well. Takes it down to about 1.5 seconds as they go into turn 1. Edward Peccarini still out in front. Josh Clogg in that second spot. Bobby Ross really has fallen off now in the third spot, 17 seconds behind your third place car of Josh Ross.
And the battle for GT3 supremacy is actually seeming to be a little bit closer than we've been leading on throughout this entire race. 2 seconds the gap is roughly, and it's been like that all race long. Peccarini has been doing a very, very good job at keeping it to a stable margin. And well, at the start of the race it was about 2 seconds, and we said Josh Clogg is just kind of sitting there pretty, and I'm not really sure what he needs to do now to catch back up to Peccarini. He's going to need to find something special in the deepest depths of his skill, and I think Peccarini, you probably say, has got this one, barring any issues with traffic, but Clogg is going to give this his all. 2.3 seconds is a big enough margin for Peccarini, but the question is, can he avoid making any mistakes, or more importantly, tripping over any traffic that may be coming up? He hasn't got any traffic, that being said, for quite a while now though, and in fact he shouldn't make any catch any in the next 2.5 minutes. 2 laps to go then. Next time by my calculations, will probably be the white flag, and Peccarini holds on to a slender lead of 2.5 seconds. We suspect it might be enough for him to hold on, but the question is Josh Clogg going to try and spoil the party? It's a rather similar but also quite distinctly different story in the GT4 class. The gap is about to the tune of 6 seconds or so, which would be quite a massive margin, to be fair, to be overcome by Dillon in the next minute or so. 2 minutes exactly, I should say. 7 seconds. But you never know in racing. Anything can happen, and as the cliche goes, it usually does. But we are now, I believe, on about the penultimate lap of this race. And you see Quintero getting past the GT4 leader nice and safely. No dramas there. So at the moment, Schwenkler with the fastest lap of 151.7 is going about his business absolutely perfectly, minding not to put the commentary curse on it.
Looks like our closest battle is actually back in about the 9th spot with Jeanette after his early tangle, battling it out right now. And Wesley has a full rear wing full of Frank Appa in that other Merc out there. This could be their battle for their final position here of 9th and 10th. Everybody else pretty spread out on the field right now, but this is going to be your closest battle between Wesley Jeanette and Frank App. And Frank trying to breathe that Merc down the straightaways to get it close. And as they come into the tight hairpins here, oh, Frank gets a little loose coming out of that turn. That gives Wesley just a little bit more space as they come down. We've only got 30 seconds left on the timer. Like you said, this should be their last lap when Eduardo comes around. Go ahead and take it, Tom, for that last lap around.
And oh, there's been a mistake by Eduardo Peccarini, and 4/10 of a second. The gap is now as they head down into turn 1 actually now, isn't it? As the GT4 gets in the way of Josh Clogg, as well as 1.1 seconds on the final lap of this race, and it's absolutely ebbing and flowing, and this GT4 isn't obliged to get out of the way, but I think Josh Clogg would have quite liked himself to get out of the way rather more quickly than that. 2 seconds it's back up to, so it looks like from not having seen the incident, it looks like Peccarini must have got tripped over by that GT4 as well. And now heading into sector 2 for the final time in this race. We have gone past the 45 minutes. This is going to be the final lap of the race. We knew that already with the white flag flying, of course, but it looks like, unless something rather dramatic happens, that Peccarini is going to come home and win this race, at least in the GT3 class. There's a spinner behind, it's the Aston Martin, but we're going to focus on this for the moment, as Peccarini has only got another corner or so to navigate before he does win round 2 of the season. It's going to be an absolutely huge victory, another dominant performance. He is about to make it 2 from 2. Is Eduardo Peccarini, newly promoted to this category, is going to come home to win his second event of the season. In the second event of the season, as something's happened to Josh Clogg, I believe. He's into the pits. He's going to finish the race in the pit lane. I think it's going to be enough for him to finish third, second even, and he will take the checkered flag. But the question is Bobby Ross going to be able to nick it at the line? No, Josh Clogg has been registered as taking the flag, and I wonder why he decided to finish the race in the pit lane. Perhaps he just couldn't be bothered to do the in-lap, which I have to say is a fair enough strategy. But as we want to focus a little bit on the GT4 lead to just crown Schwenkler as the winner if we can. And he has crossed the line as the winner of the race in GT4 after essentially, I believe, as I need to double check the results from a couple of weeks ago, he actually won. No, he didn't. That was season 1 standings I'm looking at. I apologise. So unprofessional of me. As Adam Thompson, of course, won last week. And Robert Schwenkler actually rather threw away, didn't he, that victory? And, well, he hasn't thrown it away this time as he's come home to win the race. It looks like Turner is going to finish in third with McTavish almost certainly in fourth here. And a relatively slender margin between third and fourth there for the standards of this race anyway. And it looks like Paul is going to come home fifth in the number 01. Let's go through your standings now, I believe, as I think we've had all of the drivers mostly cross the line here. And we have a couple, so I've been told we'll get it in just a moment for you. And there is that number 47. Oh, so dominant. Rob Neville as well, still on his in-lap. And those are the final results for GT4 now, as everyone has crossed the line. And I think we've got GT3 as well across the line. Here we go then, as we have results for the race, the overall classification. Eduardo Peccarini wins in the end. Not from Josh Clogg. Bobby Ross actually in second position gets it at the line, with Josh Clogg coming into the pits in the end. And maybe his pit box was actually just before the line. But Josh Clogg finishes third after finishing in the pit lane, which is a rather interesting strategy. Chad Seep finishes in fourth position from Matthew Plaisance even. Then Jake Hamm finishes in sixth with Braden Welling in seventh. Frank Apper finishes eighth with Kerry Cantera in ninth position, and then Wesley Jeanette is in 10th. Eric Wittner is in 11th. And, well, Mike, if you want to take us through the GT4 standings.
GT4 was going to have Robert Schwenkler taking the win, and with the Dangerous Motorsports car, and he pulled away by 5 seconds over Michael Dalling. And then Grant Turner finishing in third. It's an SRM Cobra Racing crew. And then Glenn McTavish with Glenn's Hot Wings with 2 cars in the top 5. Glenn finishing in the 4th spot, and Paul finishing in 5th. Rob Neville finishing in the 6th spot. In 7th was Kevin Irwin in the Bayview Shade and Blind car, and then James Keir, Sir James Keir, finishing in the 8th spot.
So, well, we've got some interviews for you as you see further confirmation of the race results in GT3. We'll just quickly remind you that Shin, Darling, and Thurston were the 3 retirees, and those are the ones we didn't quite get to. And well, we've got some interviews for you now. If I can see the channels above my my iRacing overlay, there we go. I've got it in the end. First of all, we'll speak to the GT4 race winner, Robert Schwenkler. And Robert, it's safe to say that you had a rather rough time of it last week, rather throwing away the victory. But this week it was redemption, and you've come home with a fairly dominant win. You must be feeling good about that one.
Yeah, I am very stoked to take the win today. I was not expected when I saw Michael and his pace. I was kind of concerned. I thought he was going to give me a run for my money, but I think just traffic and incidents and things that he had to kind of navigate around gave me an advantage a little bit. So yeah, overall pleased with the victory today.
And, well, heading on to the rest of the season, obviously promising pace in both of the first 2 races. Surely you've got your eye on that GT4 crown?
I hope so. You know, if Adam comes back next week, I'm sure he's going to give me some competition, and obviously if Michael sticks around. So yeah, I mean, perfect scenario, I'd love to take it. But I definitely think I'm going to have my hands full for the remainder of the season.
And well, thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck with next week. I think it might be a couple of weeks' time. Whenever the next race is, I'll pull that up on my phone in a moment so I can properly plug it. But thank you very much, and well done on tonight.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
And that was Robert Schwenkler, the GT4 winner. And next we'll have the other winner, and we have got Eduardo Peccarini. And Eduardo, well, it doesn't really get much better than two absolutely dominant wins. You must be pretty ecstatic with how your pace is this season so far.
Hi, Tom. Thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy. This was a tough race. As you could see, Josh had the pace all the time, and I was trying to pace the car, keep the tires alive, and mostly be sure not to exceed track limits too much in this track. It's really picky with track limits. So I was just trying to navigate the track and keep Josh at bay. He did a fantastic job. I saw he ran out of fuel at the last lap. I'm really sorry for him, but it was a really entertaining race.
And well, normally it's about now where I start to ask people about whether they think the championship is on for them. But I think we know the answer to that after the first two races. But are there any tracks that you're sort of eyeing up on the schedule where you think maybe actually that's going to be a difficult week for me?
And these tracks and the ones that are for the league are all tracks that I know, and you never know really how much of a difference the track will do for your specific car, because here we don't have a balance of power, and there's a huge amount of time difference between cars when you change tracks. So and we are not allowed to change car between races. So I'm pretty sure that there will be some tracks where Josh's gonna be faster on the Porsche and Bob it's gonna be faster on the Mercedes. So there's always the risk that you are not gonna be able to catch these guys.
And well, thank you very much for joining us, Eduardo. And hopefully we speak to you after another dominant victory next time out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. See you next time.
See you next time. And well, that was confidence. See you next time, as if it's already a done thing that he's going to win the race, which I think, given on today and last week, Mike, almost is a done thing, and it's going to take something mighty to stop him.
No, definitely. He definitely was pulling away and at any will. The only time that the field was catching him was when they caught up into that lap car. But once he got clear of him, he just pulled away and just ran away and hid. You could definitely see that he is going to be dominant for the whole season. And as he said, he knows all the tracks and feels pretty comfortable with himself. So he is a definite contender for the championship.
And just to round it off here, you know, final thoughts on the race?
It was a great race. That was the first time that I have been able to sit and watch one of the Cross Touring Cup races. They put on a great show. They got a wide diversity of driver abilities, so it makes it a little more interesting at times. The top dominant cars, though, is definitely Eduardo and Josh, and it could flip at any track. There could be guys that run better at one track over the other. But you'll never know. And as you said with iRating, they're just numbers. There might be guys that are 2000 that are better at a certain track than those 5K guys. So we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out, Tom.
Absolutely, and I'm mindful that we've pressed for time. So thank you very much for joining me today, Mike. I know you said it was your first time, and you did a very, very good job. And thank you as well, of course, to Ian and Fisher on caps. And I don't think saying your middle name there, Ian, was totally necessary. But anyway, we thank you all very much for watching. I've been Tom Dillon. He's been Mike Bourne. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night.